Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in with kind of a special series of videos that we're going to be aiming to do every few weeks. What you're watching is pretty much the first attempt at me and a couple of my associates reviewing series by Royal Road authors or authors of other web serials once we expand outward. We're going to be starting with Aether Nexus, Curse of Love and Hatred by author Inlajin. Inlajin, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. But I do hope you're watching this. So Inlajin, I'm really speaking more to you. What you're going to be seeing in this video is specifically our overview of the series. I do have the teardown. It was uploaded along with this one, and it should be marked in the Royal Road forum. Should be easy for you to find it. But for everyone else, hello, welcome. We're going to be covering Inlajin series. The way that this video works in particular, I'm going to sit down with two others, Skelly and Blackfox, and we're going to talk about what we felt about the first chapter of the series and give our general overview. Overall, when it came to Aether Nexus, we kind of all agreed that we all loved the way that Inlajin described the characters of the scene. Skelly and I both had our differing opinions on how stuff was presented. Skelly brought up a point about pacing, I brought up a point about execution. We all generally agreed that Inlajin's mastery of grammar was pretty good. Inlajin, though, there are a few little problems here and there, but you probably already know some of them. I did spot a few other things that weren't pointed out in your comments. But for the first chapter of Aether Nexus, Skelly came out being a little bit interested. He was interested to know that there was a POV shift in chapter 2 Inlajin. And Blackfox ultimately did not hate it, which was very good. As for me, Inlajin, one thing that I would really want to stress for you is that because you write so much, and Skelly did think also that you write quite a bit, because you've written so much, I do think it would be worthwhile for you to consider starting a new series, and perhaps one that would fit better in Royal Road, only if you really want to make a little bit of extra money, because right now with the way that Aether Nexus is set up, I just don't think that there is I don't think there's a blue ocean there for you, but that's something to consider. The reason that I'm bringing it up is because I think you're skilled enough to be able to run a new series if you really wanted to. Finally, Inlajin, I'm coming to you and you're seeing my face here, but because of the way that this is going to work, you're going to see my character once we start the video proper, and I'll just be talking through. Guys, you're going to be seeing the screen, you're going to be seeing the story as we're talking about it. That's how the format's going to go. Inlajin, for the full teardown, it will also be, I'll have your story on the screen so I can like highlight problems as we're going. Anyway, everyone, videos coming up. Inlajin, thank you for submitting your story, and Inlajin, if you have a YouTube account, please feel free to comment down below. Anyway, enjoy the video, guys. It's gonna be a long one. Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to do a video review series for okay, I'll fix this in post later, guys. Anyway, we're gonna do this. Just gonna introduce the panelists who I brought with me. Skel.
Hi. I write scripts for Screen. I've written an award-winning short film.
Wait, really?
Really?
Yeah. No. So we did win.
I remember this. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mentioned it in passing, but it's been so long.
yeah.
No,
I think I did remember you said this too.
Yeah. No. So we won, but the director wants to still throw it around other short film festivals and stuff, so I can't show it to anyone.
Okay.
Give me like another year or two, and then I can.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Gotcha.
Gotcha.
All right. That's Skel. Blackfox. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Blackfox. Blackfox or Night Days, whichever one you would want to go through. But yeah, I like to write ideas and stories just for fun. I haven't really posted anything, but you know, this is for me. This is something fun because I'm actually with people I respect who have a good eye for storytelling.
Okay. And I want to add for Blackfox there, I'm bringing him in because I think he actually has a whole lot of experience reading stories, so we'll have a nice little balance here. As for me, I mentioned this before to the people who are being reviewed, but my experience is pretty much in publishing and book selling. I've done a lot of editing for people. I've written my own little books here and there, but now I do a bit more editing. If you want to see how well I do in publishing, I have a video up on the channel, you can check it out. But today we're going to be looking at stories submitted by people on Royal Road. We're going to be looking at their first chapters, or rather talking about their first chapters, because my buddies here have already read and they have made notes and whatnot. So the first person that we're going to be covering in this video, guys, and just for the record, The way we're going to do this is we're going to have the panelists talk. I'm going to give my opinions too. It's a general overview. So the first story that we're going to cover is Aether Nexus, Curse of Love and Hatred. Guys, I just want to let you know, this is by a user named Inlajin. You guys probably saw their name on Royal Road. But just wanted to let you know that they actually gave us a pretty good reason for why they were writing. The first reason was it would be nice to be able to generate income while they're still in college. I don't want to just explain everything here, but pretty much it would be nice to generate that extra little bit of income. The second reason, though, was a bit deep for them. Inlajin had lost their older brother and a friend from high school to suicide, and it was back to back, and it put him in a really odd place mentally. Inlajin coped by imagining characters traversing a similar darkness, but finding the strength to overcome it through the connections they make with others throughout the story. Eventually, Inlajin started writing to distract themselves until a person in high school read what they had wrote and told them to continue, and that touched their heart. That was when Inlajin realized that maybe if he could touch the hearts of many, especially those that had been afflicted by the same kind of dark thoughts that took their brother and friend, it could be helpful. And that day is when they pretty much started Aether Nexus. That's the backstory for that particular story.
Oh man, that's really. I feel you. I feel you on the loss of family.
The reason I feel like to give that information out is because I think that does actually inform a bit about the way that this story begins, specifically Aether Nexus. I want to make sure we're all on the same page because we might get the titles mixed up. This is the story that has the kid with the stuffed animals in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Skell, let's start with you. You got any thoughts here?
Okay, yeah. So, going by the thing. So my main, stuff with stories. So I don't look at Royal Road. My main introduction to stories is either going to a secondhand bookstore or just being to a normal bookstore and just skimming through stuff, And with Aether Nexus, the cover of it and the title looks like something that could be published. I see a lot of books in new releases section of my local bookstore that look and have the same name. And that honestly doesn't interest me because every time this is this is book 1 of X. And it's there's no standalone stories anymore. It's very weird.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that Aether Nexus does come in volumes. On Skelly's note, I actually had a similar thought about the cover for Aether Nexus. I felt like this is something you could see at the bookstore. It's an interesting situation though, because on Royal Road doesn't really like the bookstore standard. So it's an interesting mix. So I'm very happy to hear that you mentioned that part, Skell. Blackfox, do you happen to have any thoughts on the cover or anything like that in terms of
So I'm be for real with y'all. I just didn't look at the cover until recently.
That's
so,
okay.
but I do agree with Skell that it did give me that because I go to Barnes and Nobles, and I go to Borders is no longer here anymore, but
yeah.
Basically, you would see those type of books on the new entries, and yeah, it did give me. I will say the cover did give me that kind of feel. I'm also a sucker for design, so I do like the way it is designed.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that is consistent with traditionally published books.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely, I agree on that point. Okay, so we're figuring out the format because this is our first run through. I think, we'll talk about Skell, your general impressions of the story.
I'm not even done talking about the main page.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
So the description. Okay, this is a very me thing. The description feels like something I would see, in a early 40s webcomic where someone has a really ambitious idea for their fantasy webcomic.
Okay, so I have the description on screen for people that they can see it.
This is. I swear I've seen you could stitch together 3 different webcomics from that time period and you could probably mash it into this one. That's not a bad thing. It's just, it gives the implication of, hey, maybe this person is biting off more than they can chew. But then when you scroll down to how many entries there are and the size of the entries, I'm maybe this isn't a biting off more than they can chew kind of situation here.
So I'm glad that Skelly brings that point up because Inlajin, I will mention this in the teardown. just for the record, I did the teardown before doing the sit down with my buddies here. I do think, Inlajin, that with this amount of writing that you did, you probably should do a new book. Just because you clearly can write. You're clearly passionate about what you're writing, and maybe thinking about, because you want to make money, maybe thinking about things that are more market appropriate or like easier to succeed in the market might be something worth thinking about. But we can talk about that more as we get into it deeper. Okay, Skell, do you have any more things to say about like this blurb?
With the blurb, actually, so I got distracted. So this was after I read the first thing. I scrolled down a bit and I saw someone describing the original blurb.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no, I can see like the difference between the new blurb and the original, where the original blurb just gave away everything about all these mysteries that made you want to read in the next chapter.
Yeah, so like these books that we're seeing, for everyone that's following, these are pretty much done by authors who do want to take feedback. So they have been hyper optimized. So we'll see like a lot of, like if you ever read the comments, you'll see that there was a lot of corrections and whatnot, which is really good to see. But yeah, this one, to kind of jump off of Skelly, I do feel like the blurb felt like a very standard fantasy thing that you would see from a traditionally published book. Like I looked at the blurb for like Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, and it kind of feels like this in that sense. Okay, Skell, do you have anything else to say about like the front stuff, or do you want to talk about the chapter?
No, I think that's all I really have on the front stuff.
So, getting into the actual body of chapter 1, this is what the three of us read. I have my thoughts. I do want to hear what the other guys have to think about this one. I will say I think that the stuffed animal companions was very cute. That part stood out to me quite a bit. I do like the stuffed animals. I like the idea of it.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great. So what immediately comes to me is that every single sentence has some sort of adjective.
Oh, okay.
Every single sentence. Because I was like, this feels like a longer read than how many words it is. And I looked at individual sentences and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this sentence. But looking at it as a whole, every single sentence has some sort of adjective extending every third or fourth word.
I'm just reading through it again. So the quiet ambiance, the girl stirred faintly, her breath shallow yet steady. Slowly her eyes fluttered open. I definitely didn't go as far as to think about the adjectives here. I did see that there are parts where he does extend quite a bit. And Inlajin, I'm sorry if I'm misgendering you. I really apologize. I'm going to try and just say your name as much as I can. There are parts where Inlajin extends quite a bit, where it's like they're leading the reader along in a really odd way. I'll see if I can spot it. Blackfox, do you have any thoughts you want to add there?
I do agree that. So I did feel like I was being led along to something. And I was getting more and more, like for me, it's like as I'm reading and I get more and more curious at how this is going. That's where I tend to find myself like drawn to something. And like I'd say it was around the time when the girl met the boy. That's when I'm starting to get like slightly more drawn in. I really wasn't thinking about the adjectives, but it definitely feels like Inlajin, I think is the name.
Yeah, Inlajin, yeah.
Inlajin was like I said, drawing you towards somewhere. I guess I don't know if that's a good way to.
Yeah, no, don't worry. Like, we'll figure out the best way to like convey what we're thinking about as we keep doing this.
Mm-hmm. No, say your piece because I will keep talking. Fine.
Okay, I was gonna say that it's tough to find it like on the spot here, but Inlajin, I talked about it in the teardown. But it's like they would sometimes talk the way that people who read translated web novels talk. Like there would be a construction where they would say this resulted in or this meant that, and then explain the situation. And it's like you don't need to have that weird lead in, like that doesn't need to be there. That could be stripped out. So it's really interesting to hear about this adjective observation, because it really does mean there are more words being added on here. And I did think that there is definitely a ton of stuff that you could remove from this chapter and it would just be a tighter chapter overall. Okay, what else do you have there that you wanted to say, Skell?
All right, well, so I will say that made the setting feel a lot slower, but not in a way that really expressed the location. But when it comes to character description, that really made a very solid like vision of what each character in the scene is.
I agree on that one. The character description was definitely on point with this.
You know, I don't think I actually complained about the character description at all in when I was tearing it down, so I think you guys are right. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. The locked eyes, the boy's olive tone and freckled face beam with an ecstatic smile, creating raised dimples at the cheeks, accompanying his brightly shining green eyes. You know what, Inlajin, just really quickly, you could probably get rid of that creating. Just saying raising dimples at the cheeks or something, like, you don't need to like make the creating makes it feel weird. But yeah, no, you guys are right, because like when they were describing the stuffed animals, I was definitely in. I had no problem with that part at all.
Yeah, I think for me it was like on the boys' right, and you're probably gonna get on me for the fox thing, but on the boys' right side stood a fox-like creature standing upright on its 4 legs, but similar to its bare brother, boasted a light green color, a blue vine-like spaller pattern. Like, I was starting to get more of imagination of, oh, okay, so this is what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, no, like definitely, like the stuffed animals were. That's a good observation. Skell, since you seem to be the one having more thoughts here, you have any others you want to add?
So this isn't like an actual criticism, because very few writers are actually do the opposite of this, where the description of setting is the same for the flashback of the girl as it is for the boy describing the things going on, which gives them kind of a similar voice.
Can you elaborate on that one? Because like, I think this might be something I wanted to ask you about, but can you elaborate on what you're saying? Which part are you like really thinking about here?
So the way the girl's mental state describes the things that happened in the past,
yeah,
you know, never registered how creepy things were, because it has the same pacing as the description of the room and of the boy looking at things.
Yeah.
Because they all have the same pacing, which I think that's the fundamental thing that I'm thinking of here with the description. Because it all has the same pacing, it makes everything feel very samey.
I think, yes. I think we probably ended up on the same feeling. Blackfox, do you have anything you want to comment on that before I like continue on this one?
Nah, I've got nothing really to say on that part.
No worries. Then in this case, Skell, I want to ask you this one. Because one of my big criticisms here is specifically we start the story with the description of the kid and his stuffed animals. It starts on him, and then we slowly move into the girl's flashbacks. And I found it kind of awkward because like they re-describe the cabin again after we do the girl's flashback. And at some point I start wondering, does it make sense to start with a flashback? My mentality is we start running. We don't start at a situation where you already know the girl is safe. I'll let you go, Skull, then I'll just continue.
So like, I get what you mean, except after the flashback, it doesn't describe the cabin, it describes the things that are immediate to the girl, which I think is not describing what was described in the cab. That's the thing. It starts with the description of the cabin, and then we go into the flashback, and then when we return to the cabin, it's the girl describing the things that are immediate to her, the blanket.
So just to like fully understand, do you think that's like a weakness? Do you think what would you like? What kind of categorization would you give that? What kind of like judgment would you give that?
I feel it is a weakness because the flashback is described to the same pace as the cabin.
Okay, gotcha. So we come back to that pacing problem, because like what I was thinking is instead of starting it on that flashback, the elements of the flashback, like the girl seeing the blood splattering everywhere, I feel like to sell the book at the very beginning, like you start it with the girl locked up. You do the descriptions, like the really visceral descriptions of what we saw of the guards being torn apart, and then you can even have it so that her consciousness is coming in and out, so it turns into like just very fast blurry moments. Like she's 1 second in the room, blood goes everywhere. The next thing she knows, we get a description that she's out in the cold. You could say something like the cold actually brought her senses back away from panic. Next thing we know, we're all of a sudden standing on a ridge, and then she falls into the water, and the next thing we know is when she wakes up in the cabin. I just feel like that pacing, maybe that would change the speed, because
the in and out pacing That could be quite interesting. But given what like the author's pacing seems to be here, I don't know how it develops. You know what? Quite frankly, the author may have like locked everything down like 3 chapters in, and I feel like that's kind of a thing where it could be helped out a bit if we looked at more rather than just the very first. But you know, this is the first time we're doing this.
Yeah. I did look at the second chapter, I think, but I think the second chapter did a POV shift.
Oh, so it goes into the witch who's traveling around.
Yeah, I think so, if I recall correctly. Yeah, in a dimly lit corridor in an island-bound fortress, like you pretty much jump somewhere else.
Okay.
Inlajin, like my criticism there is only in the sense of like if you wanted to sell that, those kind of openings I think do a little bit better. Blackfox, since you're our flavor guy here, man, like, what do you think, man? Do you think it's comforting to know that the girl is already safe while we're getting exposed to the flashback, and like the flashback is dangerous? Or do you think if we were just in the moment going with the girl in real time from danger to safety, which one would get a better emotional reaction out of you think?
So I'd say I won't lie, for like a split second when I first read this, because I had to read it when I read it the second time. The first time I was initially slightly confused a little, because I was like, okay, so she's, because of what it says with the cabin stood defiantly, and then because I'm reading it just says friend, and then she wakes up. Like I was slightly confused because I didn't realize, like it wasn't until the second read I was like, oh, okay, so this is a flashback.
Okay.
That was my initial thing, but like now it's like I think it's fine now. It's okay now, but I definitely think it could. I don't know what the proper term is, that like it can be slightly tweaked. I think I don't know if that's the.
Yeah, it's the execution. It's like an issue.
I don't know if it was executed properly. That's what it was.
Yeah, it's a question of the execution. I think I would have Inlajin. I'm actually really happy that Blackfox said that he got confused, because like what we really want to do in Inlajin is like reduce points of friction, because your first chapter can't have points of friction that filter out your readers. That's fundamentally like the big problem. And like jumping across timelines like that with a flashback in the first chapter, it usually does cause a lot of confusion for a certain type of reader. Skell, do you have anything else you want to talk about here?
Okay, so I'm going to say something like right off. It's very stereotypical. It happens a lot, especially with like manic pixie girl type series.
Okay.
Where the character says, like, stutters out the other person's name and then introduces themselves. I think that's adorable. It's fantastic. I love it every time. It's very stereotypical. Love that shit. It's great.
Okay.
Yo, how you phrase it? Like I was thinking you was gonna like cut into it.
For
love
a
it.
second. Feel free to keep talking, Skell, if you have any more things here.
Well, no. So if you were talking about like reshaping the introduction, because you have this bit at the end where Dama is looking at her injuries.
Yeah. And
that could be a fantastic way to cut into the flashback of, oh hey, here's something Dama has noticed about her. The tips of her fingers are a little blackened, you know, gotta keep that warm, you know? Oh, boom, you can flash back to she's in the freezing ocean. It's like, oh yeah, you know, you can see her bones and everything. She's really malnourished, and it's like, bam, flashback to like the minimal amount of food she's having to eat, you know?
Okay.
Would you think that would happen like after he would ask the question, he would ask her a question about how that happened?
Well, no, he doesn't even need to ask a question, because it could be the perspective of he is looking at this thing, because it's like, oh, bruises all over her body. And then you can flash back to her perspective of, oh, here's how she got those bruises.
Yeah. So, Inlajin, like what Skelly is describing is actually a bit more involved than what I was describing, because this is going to be a bit more intimate of a back and forth between the characters, essentially, like narratively. Because like the way I would imagine it in terms of like manga is he looks at like if you imagine a panel of like him looking at the fingers, and then you have a reaction shot of her looking down at the fingers, and then like a flashback panel of her fingers in the snow or something like that. That's how I kind of imagine it, like visually.
So I would imagine it more in a literature sense of, okay, so you have Dama's perspective of, oh, he's healing her, you know, whatever, taking care of her. And he notices, oh, like the tips of her fingers or toes or whatever are a little blackened. It's nothing serious yet, but you know?
Yeah.
And then you could have her, because he would mention, oh, you know, it must have been near frostbite or something. and then her eyes twitch or whatever to represent that she's dreaming. She's remembering these things that have happened to her, and and then it would be a description of her running through the snow or diving into the ocean or whatever.
And then, like, just to make sure I'm following, Dama's continued investigation would be the prompts for the rest of the flashback pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think like that's a very engaging way of doing it, and I do think it like because you're shifting from one perspective to the other. I think like more stuff is going on in there. Personally, not saying that's bad or anything. Inlajin, just
No,
like
I mean, I actually quite like. So I quite like how it's done. It's just the pacing feels a bit samey for the flashback and the present scene. So it feels like it blends together rather than it's 3 separate sequences.
Okay, yeah, no, for me, I will say I do prefer my suggestion, but that's.
I mean, of course, your suggestion's a lot. It's very solid on how it comes together.
Yeah. Inlajin, but the good thing here is like, we have a diversity of opinions here, and Skelly like has a good perspective on that one. Anything else, Skel?
Not particularly right now.
Okay.
I think I will check out the next section of Dama and Giona's
that's
thing.
great.
Yeah, I'm curious too. So I'm
Though, since apparently the POV changes, maybe I'll look through that too to see if that's worth checking out.
Just making sure. Yeah, there is a POV change. I'm sure Dama gets mentioned. Yeah. It's actually pretty. Like the second chapter, like does something in terms of the way they're moving around the scenes. Okay, Blackfox, you got any last minute thought you want to add on this one?
No, actually, like I said, I actually liked it. I like this one. It's actually it was actually really solid. A solid read.
Yeah.
Like I said, I already stated. I was slightly confused, but like now I have a better like understanding once I reread it. This one was actually a good one.
Yeah. Inlajin, so you're pretty much set up for your teardown if you continue the video. But I will tell you, like, your writing on a technical level was very solid. You have like arcane grammar issues. You have some mistakes here, but I think that's because of spell check. But yeah, we'll do your teardown. Skell and Blackfox, thanks for helping out with Aether Nexus Aether Nexus Curse of Love and Hatred. Thank you for helping out on that one, guys. Do you have any last words for Inlajin?
Holy shit, dude, that's a lot of writing.
Yeah.
Word.
So so I skimmed over the index of when everything came out, and I'm like, the only people I've seen write at that pace consistently are people who are like professional writers, not like necessarily fiction writers, but like journalists and stuff.
Wow. Well, Inlajin, I hope that makes you feel real good, man.